Hello again. خلاص I promise this is the last video أو I don't know على حسب الظروف. بس احنا كده يعتبر خلصنا المنهج الحمد لله. Compound measures and physics يعني برضو this is not supposed to be long. If you برضو all you need is your notes. If you can please open your notes to page number 318. طبعا if you take physics this year يبقى الكلام ده بالنسبة لكم هيبقى لطيف جدا وأكيد all of you يعني سواء كنتوا pre-IG أو كنتوا national أو American أو أي حاجة فالرولز اللي احنا هنقولها دي كلها بالنسبة لكم رولز سهلة جدا. احنا اللي هنعمله ان احنا we're going to introduce the rules that you need in physics and we're going to solve كام سؤال كده وخلاص. هنا بيقول لي اهو طبعا if you can please everyone open your notes to page number 318. Now this is the first rule that you need to know and I guess all of you know it اللي هي speed equals distance over time and this is طبعا the famous distance speed time triangle. طبعا from here you can conclude two more rules. Distance is speed multiplied by the time and the time is distance over speed. اهم حاجه في المسائل اللي من النوع ده اليونتس وهو ده اللي احنا هنبتدي نحل عليه لانه احيانا مثلا يجيب لي السؤال متر per second ويقول لي change this question into kilometer per hour حاجه زي كده. طبعا the second rule that you have to know or you don't really have to know it that much اللي هي acceleration is change of speed over time. This is not very important. اللي بقى بيجي كتير في الامتحانات اللي هو pressure equals force over area and this is the pressure force area triangle. The force is pressure multiplied by the area and the area is force over pressure. ده بقى بيجي كتير في الامتحانات بتاعت 1x و 2x هتلاقيهم كتير موجودين. Moving on to another rule برضه بقى بيجي كتير قوي اللي هو density equals mass over volume وبقى بيجي في المسائل بتاعت ال 3D shapes. Density equals mass over volume and then this is the mass density volume rule and I guess you're all familiar with these rules from year 9. As I said, whether you were in pre-IG or in the national system, you are familiar with these rules. Mass is density. Density is mass over volume. So, mass is density multiplied by volume, and the volume is mass divided by the density. Mass divided by the density. So these are the rules that you actually need. دلوقتي يا جماعة we're going to solve some questions about speed, distance, time. يمكن الريت بتاعي وانا بشتغل هتلاقوه سريع شويه لانه بيتهيالي الحاجات دي مش صعبه يعني. انا بس هحل من باب ان انتوا يبقى عندكم كل المسائل محلوله في النوتس تمام. فطبعا if you already know how to solve these questions you can just pause the video, solve the questions and then check your answers. طبعا the most important thing for me in these sort of questions is the change of units تمام. طبعا on your calculator there's a very important button that we need to know and we will use today which is the time button اللي هو ده كده هتلاقوا زرار عليه دايرة وكومز كده. We might use this button, it will be helpful for us. هنا بيقول لي رجيش طبعا هنقول شوية hints كده في الحل لأنه العشق والغرام بتاع إن أنا أحولها الديسيمال ده وتطلع لي ديسيمال طويل وأنا أقرر أعمل rounding بمزاجي. Please 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 don't change to decimals unless your question is a terminating decimal. Don't change to decimal بس علشان أنا عايزة أحول لديسيمال وخلاص. هنا بيقول لي Rajesh cycled 60 kilometers in 2 hours and 30 minutes. Work the speed in kilometer per hour. طبعا the rule of the speed is distance over time. أنا من الشخصيات اللي لما بحل المسائل دي بكتب اليونت. طبعا let's draw the speed triangle. Speed equals distance over time. I am required to calculate the speed. So the speed is distance over time. Now the distance is given in kilometers and the time is given in 2 hours and 30 minutes. Now this time, التايم ده كله على بعضه لازم يبقى in hours. فأنا هغير ال 30 into hours. طبعا how do I change to hours? I divide by 60. فهتبقى 2 and 30 over 60. السؤال بقى how do I put this on the calculator? I put this on the calculator as a mixed number. As a mixed number. اللي هو فوق الفراكشن اهو هعملها دلوقتي على الكالكوليتر 60 over shift fraction عشان تطلع لي mixed number 2 and 30 over 60 هتطلع لي على طول 24 طبعا the unit is kilometer per hour. The unit is kilometer per hour. حاجة بقى اللذيذة عايزة أقولها لكم على التايمز بutton ده إن أنا علشان أتأكد إن إجابتي صح ممكن أعمل إيه بقى on the calculator. طبعا ال 60 زي ما هي، الزرار ده هيقرا لي دي كأنها 2 hours and 30 minutes بالظبط. يعني إيه؟ يعني on your calculator you will press 2 and then you will press on the times button. ثانية أظبط بس الكالكوليتر على standard form. So as we said, this button over here, this button يعني لو أنا حطيت الرقم ده على الكالكوليتر كده using this button, the calculator will read it as 2 hours and 30 minutes. How do I use it بقى? On the calculator, I will put the fraction form first, and then I will insert the number 2, and then press on the times button. So this will appear on your calculator. And then type 30, and then press on the times button again. So this will appear. يبقى كده الكالكوليتر قريتها 2 hours 30 minutes. Press equal هتطلع لي 24 على طول. طبعا this is just for you to know يعني مش أكتر من كده. نيجي بقى على هنا السؤال اللي وراه. قال لي change your answer أو give your answer in meter per second. أنا هعملها بطريقة شوية مطولة على أساس تنفع في كل المسائل. أنا the information I have in this question is 60 kilometers, and then the 2 hours and 30 minutes, ولا it could be written like this 2 hours and 30 minutes. طبعا دي سهل ان انا اكتبها 2.5 عشان بس ما بقاش مفتريه برضو عليكم في موضوع change to decimal يعني 2.5 hours. هو بقى قال لي change this to قولوا معايا meter per second. هنعمل ايه بقى؟ هغير فوق لمترز. طبعا how do I change kilometer to meter times 1000. And then how do I change this to seconds? 2.5 times 60 بقت minutes times 60 again بقت seconds. يبقى انا اغير كل حاجه لوحدها. الكيلومتر هخليها meters ازاي؟ times 1000. والتايم ده اللي هي الاورز احوله seconds ازاي؟ times 60 بقى minutes times 60 again. وهنا عندي اهي 2.5. طبعا times 60 times 60 دي ممكن اكتبها times 60 squared. فهتطلع الاجابه 20 over 3. طبعا هنا بقى لان most probably the question might ask that you round it to 3 significant figures هتبقى 6.67. طبعا في طريقه ثانيه للحل لو هي فعلا جايه كده مرتين ورا بعض، يعني لو هو مديني A و B 24 كيلومتر per hour يعني 24 كيلومتر over 1 hour. يعني دي معناها كده 24 كيلومتر over 1 hour. نفس الكلام how do I change to meters times 1000. How do I change hours to seconds قلنا times 60 squared. And then you can put it on the calculator 24 times 1000 divided by 60 squared. طبعا you will definitely get the same answer. أنا بس عملتها من الأول خالص، لكن لو هو مديني السؤال A و B بالشكل ده you can do it this way اللي هو 24 kilometer per hour means 24 kilometer over 1 hour. ده كده question number 1. طبعا نحل الباقيين سريعا زي ما قلت عشان بس يبقى عندكم الإجابات. شيتا drove ولا سيتا دي drove 57 kilometers in 45 minutes. Work out the speed. Now the speed أهو in kilometer per hour. The speed is distance over time. Please whenever you solve write the units. 57 kilometers over 45 minutes. How do I change minutes to hours? Divide 60. And then on the calculator بنفس شكلها كده بدون أي اختلافات 57 over 45 and then over 60 هتطلع لي الإجابة 76 kilometer per hour. حد بقى يسألني سؤال حلو قوي يقول لي مس طيب how do I insert 45 minutes on the calculator using the times button اللي هو ده if you want to check that your answer is correct. Now to use the times button ده اسمه زرار التايم. You have to press on the times button after the hours, after the minutes, after the seconds. أنا مثلا هنا 45 minutes فما عنديش hours فهعملها على الكالكوليتر ازاي؟ 0 hours 45 minutes. اهو اعملها دلوقتي حتى عشان نتاكد. 57 over 0 time button 45 time button هتطلع لي نفس الاجابه طبعا على طول. بس خدوا بالكم when you use it لازم الاورز الاول minutes وبعد كده السكندز. لو ما فيش hours احط 0 ولو ما فيش minutes احط 0 برضه. لو في seconds لازم احط 2 zeros الاول. هنا بقى بيقول لي علي walked 3 hours and 40 minutes work out at the speed of كذا work out the distance speed equals لا ايه العك اللي انا بكتبه ده تحت speed equals distance over time. In this question over here I am required to calculate distance. Now let's see, the distance is speed times time. Now the speed is given in kilometer per hour. That means when I multiply the speed by the time التايم كله لازم يبقى بالhours. فدي هتبقى هنا 3 hours و40 over 60 كده. وخلاص بقى حكينا التايمز باتن وقلنا يا جماعه دي mixed number اهو. انا هعملها بقى بالتايمز باتن على طول 5.4. بس this you have to write in an exam. You have to show the examiner how do you convert. بس on your calculator أنا I'm going to do it this way 5.4 times 3 times button 40 times button. يعني أحطها على الكالكوليتر كده 5.4 times 3 time button 40 time button. فالكالكوليتر قريتها على طول 3 ساعات و 40 دقيقة. بس you have to press on the times button so that the calculator gives the normal answer بقى اللي هي 19.8. تمام لأنه الكالكوليتر طلعت لي الإجابة قولوا معايا طلعتها time. فأنا عشان أرجعها تاني I press on the time button فهتطلع لي طبيعية. Or you can do it as a mixed number من الأول 40 over 60 أهو هتطلع 19.8. تمام نكمل. Preeti drove 108 at an average speed of كذا work out the time give the time in hours and minutes. دي بالنسبة لي مسألة جميلة ومهمة. هنا بقى عايزين التايم بتاع الأستاذة Preeti. So the time is distance over speed. The distance is 108 kilometers over. The speed is 45 kilometers per hour. So when I put this on the calculator, the time I'll get, which is 12 over 5, this will be in hours. Now, there is a trick that we can use, but there are steps that you have to show. The trick that you can use is, if you press immediately on this button over here, it will give you the hours and the minutes immediately. But what are the steps? تاني العشق والغرام بتاع الديسيمالز. هتقولوا لي يا مس بس دي terminating. معلش خدوني على قد عقلي. Change to mixed number 12 over 5. Change it to mixed number. On the calculator press shift SD فهتطلع لي 2 and 2 over 5. ال 2 دي هي الhours وال 2 over 5 دي is a fraction of the hour. Now how do I change this fraction of the hour to minutes? Multiply by 60. Now if I change the fraction to minutes multiplying by 60 هيطلع لي على طول 24. So change to mixed number. The whole number represents the hours and the fraction to change it to minutes you multiply by 60. نكمل هنا. زي ما اتفقنا if you want you can pause solve all the questions and then أو I recommend إن أنتوا تتفرجوا عليه كله يمكن أكون أنا بقول حاجة جديدة. هنا بيقول لي طبعا هنا as you can see the solving tips أهي. I need you to read the solving tips. Tara flew from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. The flight covered a distance of kaza. Again, this is the speed. We are required to find the time. And as we just did it, the time is distance over speed. So, where's the triangle? Yes, the time is distance over speed. So let's write the distance. ودايما يا جماعة يفضل إنه you write the units 10,430 kilometer over the speed, which is 840 kilometer per hour. On the calculator, 10430 over 840 اهو طلع لي 149 over 12. Now if you press on decimal it's a non-terminating decimal, so please don't do that. What is the trick? And what is the step? The trick is press on the time button. Immediately هتطلع لي 12 hours and 25 minutes. The step is change to mixed number. Change to mixed. Shift SD. هتطلع لي 12 and 5 over 12. ده كده الhours جاهزة. This fraction you need to change to minutes. How would you do that? Multiply by 60. So I'm going to do it on the calculator. 5 over 12 times 60 هتطلع لي على طول ال 25 minutes اهي. Okay, moving on. Ben, شو بقى قصة Ben? Ben ran 100 meters at a speed of كذا. Work out the time and give your answer to do decimal places. Now, first you need to make sure that the units are proper. Now, this is meter per second and this is meter. فأنا هنا I don't need to do any conversions. Again, the time is distance over speed. دي سهلة المسألة دي. فهنعملها على طول 100 divided 8.6. The question says round to 2 decimal places. So the time is 11.63. ودي ما هياش محتاجة حاجة. طبعا دي المسائل البيزك اللي هي الورد بروبلمز اللي اوريدي بتيجي كتير في الامتحانات وبالتالي في ناس اصلا بتعرف تحلها من غير ما نشرحها حتى. نيجي بقى على the new types of questions اللي هم the mass, the density, the volume questions. طبعا هنا as you can see بيقول لي an iron cylinder. Now let's remember the cylinder. A cylinder is a prism. وال 3D shapes أخذت حقها في الشرح لو فاكرين شرحناها بمنتهى التفاصيل. هي بس كان ناقص فيها ال tricky questions وهنعملهم إن شاء الله وإحنا بنحل في ال past papers. This cylinder has a radius of 12. طبعا if you remember the cylinder is a prism and the volume of any prism is area cross section multiplied by the length. And the length of this prism is 18 centimeters. ودايما يا جماعة في المسائل دي be aware of the units. ابتدى يرخم في الموضوع ده يدي لي واحدة سنتيمتر وواحدة متر مثلا. قال لك the mass is 64 kilograms. Work out the density. Now let's draw the triangle. The density is mass over volume. هو هنا بيقول لي work out the density in gram per centimeter cube. Now as we said the density is mass over volume. Now the mass is given in kilograms, so first I have to change it to grams. And how do I do that? Multiply by 1,000. Volume. What is the volume of the cylinder? The volume of the cylinder is area cross section multiplied by the length. لأنه this is a prism. طبعا area of cross section, the cross section of a cylinder is a circle, so pi times 12 squared multiplied by the length. Now all of these are in centimeters. This is in grams. So I immediately place it now on the calculator. 64,000 over shift pi times 12 squared times 18. On the calculator, after rounding to 3 significant figures, I should get an answer of 7.86. And the unit, of course, is gram per centimeter cubed. هنا بقى في question B قال لي find the density in kilogram per meter cube بقى this time. So the mass is already in kilograms. تمام. And the dimensions are in centimeter. أنا من الشخصيات I will change them to meters from now. طبعا how do I change to meter? Divide by 100. فهتبقى pi times 0.12 squared times 0.18 squared. So basically what I've done in question number B is that I kept the mass as kilograms and I had to change the dimensions of the cylinder into meter. And how did I do that? I just divided by 100. So I got this answer on the calculator, which is 7859.5 whatever. طبعا the question says round to 3 significant figures, فهتبقى 7860. Moving on to question number 8. Question 8 says the volume of a gold bar is كذا and the density is كذا. What is required here? The required is mass. Now from the table, mass is density multiplied by volume. Again, make sure with the units. Mass density, the density is what? 19.3 gram per centimeter per 3, multiplied by the volume of the gold bar, which is 51.8 centimeter per 3. بصوا كده الحتة دي مع السلامة مع السلامة. So the answer is going to be in grams. تمام. طبعا you might be asked in some questions to change into kilogram. And how do I change from gram to kilogram? You divide by 1,000. Let me just make sure that the numbers I have are correct on the calculator. هتبقى 999.74 grams. The question says round to the nearest gram. يعني هنا فدي هتبقى تقريبا 1,000 grams. 0 ناقص 1,000 grams. Last question related to word problems, and then we'll move on to the graphs. مع ان الجرافs ما بقتش بتيجي كتير في الامتحانات كل فين وفين لما بيجيبوا speed time graph او distant time graph، بس هنعمل 3 اسئله كده من باب السرعه، يعني من باب الشرح السريع. Question 9 هنا بيقول لي pressure equals force over area. When pressure is in Pascal, force in كذا, the length of the edges of a rectangular block are. A block يعني this is a 3D shape طبعا. I'm going to just do a small sketch of my 3D. أهو. Let's put the dimensions anywhere يعني مش فارقة. هنقول مثلا هنا دي 2.5 ودي هنا مثلا 2 and this is 1.5. طبعا the faces are 2 times 1.5, and then we have this face which is 2.5 times 2, and then we have the one facing us which is 2.5 times 1.5. هنا بيقول لي the weight of the block, which is the force, of course, the weight of the block is 7,500. The box rests on one of its faces with the contact to the ground. Calculate the least possible pressure on the ground. طبعا يا جماعة هنكتب الرول بس هنا pressure equals force over area. يعني ايه السؤال ده؟ السؤال ده يعني انا البوكس ده قعدت اقلبه كده، انهي فيس هيعمل اقل pressure مع الجراوند؟ انهي فيس هيعمل اقل pressure مع الجراوند؟ طبعا الفورس هي طبعا the biggest face هو الفيس اللي هيعمل اقل pressure على الجراوند. زي يا جماعه انا عايزه بس افكركم بالبريشر يعني ايه. طبعا البنات هيحبوا الاكزامبل ده. لو البنات لابسين هاي هيلز بتلاقي الكعب بيعمل حفره كبيره في الارض، او لو انا مثلا ماشيه على سجاده او لو ماشيه على رمل. ليه بقى؟ لانه الهاي هيلز، خلينا نتخيل ان هي شكلها عامل كده، يعني فرضا يعني دي هاي هيلز، الهيل ذات نفسه الاريا بتاعته صغيره جدا فبيعمل فورس كبيره على الارض. تمام. So when the area is small the force is big. while الرجاله الشباب بيبقوا دايما لابسين مثلا الجزم من نايكي او ايا كان، فبتلاقي الجزمه من تحت مفرشحه كبيره كده. ف the area of contact of the shoes with the ground كبيره، فما بيعلموش قوي على الارض زي البنات. البنات طبعا بيمشوا على الارض بيعملوا بصمه وراهم. الرجاله لابسين جزم طويله كده كبيره، ف the area of contact of the shoes with the ground كبيره، فما بيعلموش قوي على الارض. هو هنا بيقول لي calculate اقل pressure. اقل pressure يبقى اكبر area. او حتى ممكن نفكر فيها يا جماعه في فكره الupper bound والlower bound although it's not that much related يعني هنا، بس يعني ممكن هو عايز the least pressure. اللي فوق زي السؤال واللي تحت عكسه، فهناخد the maximum area. طبعا the maximum area over here definitely is going to be the multiplication of the biggest two numbers, which is حتى ممكن نجيب ال areas بتاعت every face. 2 times 2.5 which is 5, and then 2 times 1.5 which is 3, and then ناقص مين؟ 1.5 times 2.5. تعالوا نحسبها دي. 1.5 times 2.5 which is 3.75. So which face resulted the biggest area is 5. The least pressure. يبقى قلنا least pressure يبقى the biggest area. تمام. هحسبها بقى 7,500 divide 5 هتطلع 1,500. This is mainly everything you need to know about the word problems. related to mass, density, volume, speed, distance, time والكلام ده. هنيجي بقى على الجرافs اللي هم the distance time graph and the velocity times graph. وزي ما بقول لكم دول ما بقوش بيجوا تقريبا في الامتحانات، بيجوا قليل قوي 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 يعني قوي. انا بس هقولهم من باب الاوالة يعني، وهنحل عليهم 3 مسائل الموجودين في النوتس. طبعا distance time graph يعني the y axis is distance, the x axis is time, the line drawn represents speed. The line drawn represents speed and the gradient of this line is speed. Velocity times graph تمام، يبقى ده distance time، فاللاين اللي مرسوم speed. Velocity time graph أو what we call it، حتى we can call it speed times graph. اللاين اللي مرسوم ده acceleration. وطبعا to find the value of the acceleration I can easily calculate the gradient of this line. حاجة زيادة بس محتاجين نعرفها في ال velocity time إنه area under curve أو area under this line represents the distance traveled. يبقى أنا عندي 2 types of graphs we are going to deal with this year. The distance time. والdistance time الحاجة الوحيدة اللي بقدر أحسبها فيه هي السبيد. والسبيد بتبقى عبارة عن the gradient of this line over here. While velocity times graph, in velocity times graph اللاين اللي مرسوم ده بيبقى acceleration and the gradient of this line is acceleration. حاجة زيادة بقدر أحسبها في ال velocity times graph الديستنس. والديستنس بتتحسب إزاي؟ area under curve. هنحل ال3 مسائل اللي موجودين في النوت. هنبتدي بآخر سؤال اللي هو page number 327. page 327. هنا بيقول لي the diagram shows velocity time. So as we said, since this is velocity time, so this line over here drawn in the graph is acceleration. And to be very specific, the gradient of this line is acceleration. And one other thing we can calculate in velocity time is the distance traveled. And how do we calculate the distance traveled? By calculating area under curve. وهنشوف يا جماعة دي هتتحسب ازاي. طبعا هنا question number A قال لي find the constant acceleration of the car. طبعا this is a car moving as you can see، عربية ماشية بقالها 40 ثانية. So find the constant acceleration of the car in the first 10 seconds. يعني I need the gradient of this line over here. I need the gradient of this line. طبعا if you remember, how do I find the gradient of the line? You find the gradient of the line by applying the rule y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or by applying rise over run. And what do I mean by rise over run? Rise over run means the vertical motion, the vertical change over the horizontal change. لو عايزين تعملوها بالرول، طبعا البوينت دي 10 و 30 والبوينت دي 0 0. you can apply the rule straight away, or أنا في المسائل دي I apply rise over run. ويعني إيه rise over run؟ rise يعني the y change over the x change. يعني اللاين أهو. الرايز يعني إيه؟ يعني من هنا لهنا. من هنا لهنا كام؟ 30. over the run يعني من هنا لهنا. يعني لو أنا جيت عملت vertical line هنا كده، this is the run. So 30 over 10. لا ولا دي مش 30، يا دي الخيبة. دي مش 30 خالص، دي كام؟ let me zoom in. معلش يا جماعة بقى، ده تاني فيديو سجله ورا بعضه، فيمكن عشان كده. كويس I zoomed in. This is 28. Sorry. This is 28. طبعا احنا we said it بقى so many times before, whenever you're dealing with graphs you have to find the scale first. والقصة دي بقى قلناها 100 مرة. طبعا scale difference على عدد المربعات. The scale here is +1. The scale here is +1. So in the first 20 seconds the speed is 28 over 10. So the acceleration is 2.8. خلصت على كده. هنا جه قال لي write down the greatest velocity reached. بيبقوا أسئلة سهلة قوي على فكرة، بيبقوا سهلين يعني، حتى لو جم في الامتحانات بيبقوا سهلين قوي. write down the greatest velocity reached by the car. طبعا this car started from rest، يعني كانت بادئة بسبيد 0، قعدت تزود 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 لحد ما وصلت عند 28. This is the highest velocity reached by the car. هنا بقى اللي بقول لكم عليه. هنا بيقول لي calculate the distance traveled by the car while it was traveling at this greatest velocity. يعني هي العربية دي كان إيه ظروفها؟ العربية دي بادئة من الصفر، كانت راكنة. مشينا بالعربية، قعدنا نزود السبيد لحد ما وصلنا عند 28. وفضلنا ماشيين على سبيد 28 دي لحد هنا. يعني this horizontal line over here represents this line. أنا ماشية هنا مش واقفة، أنا ماشية على speed 28. Let's see how long did I travel on this speed. I start أنا هنا من 10 seconds لحد دي كام؟ 28 برضه. تمام؟ فأنا قعدت ماشية على السبيد دي 18 ثانية. هو قال لي بقى calculate the distance traveled during this 18 seconds. هو ده بقى الفكرة. In a velocity times graph, this area from 10 to 28, this area over here represents the distance traveled. وهو ده معناها area under curve. يبقى أنا from the starting point, I dropped a perpendicular line. From the ending point of the horizontal line, I dropped another perpendicular line. يبقى أنا I kept traveling at this speed for 18 seconds. طبعا as you can see, this is a rectangle, and of course the area of the rectangle is length times width. So the answer is going to be double I. أنا هعملها هنا أهو 18 times، لأنه من هنا لهنا 18 مش 28. The difference والheight 28. So 18 times 28 is 504. فأنا فضلت سايقة 504 meters. نيجي بقى على question number C. Question C says, after 40 seconds بقى, the car decelerates at a constant rate of 2. هي العربية خدوا بالكم مشيت constant speed وبعد كده قللت شوية، بعد كده فضلت ماشية شوية على speed 20. بعد بقى ما وصلت 40 ثانية أنا هنقول أنا وصلت الديستنيشن بتاعتي خلاص. The car decelerates. وقلنا يعني إيه decelerates؟ يعني بتقعد تقلل في السبيد بتاعتها at a rate of 2 meters per second until it comes to rest. يعني قعدت تقلل لحد ما وقفت خالص. Complete the velocity times graph. طب إيه بقى الحوسة دي؟ ما أنا I need to know هي وقفت بعد كام ثانية علشان أعرف اللاين اللي هنزله ده هنزله لحد فين. So at the second 40 the car started decelerating, decreasing its speed till it stopped. I need to know the time taken for the car to stop. محتاجة أعرف العربية قعدت قد إيه تقلل علشان أعرف the arriving time. طبعا according to the rule إنه the acceleration is change in velocity over time. طبعا the acceleration أو the deceleration is given which is 2. هتقولي لي يا مس ليه ما حطيتيهاش negative 2؟ لأنه كده أنا عايزة time والتايم مش هيبقى negative. The velocity the car started at decelerating at is 20. يعني العربية بدأت تقلل سرعتها وهي ماشية على speed 20. طبعا لما يقول لي comes to rest يعني ما هي الاكسلريشن رول بس عشان ما ببقاش كاتباها كده بكروته is the final velocity minus the fine. لا أنا مش عايزة أدخل في التفاصيل دي بصراحة. acceleration is change in velocity over time. كده هي it comes to rest. يعني the final velocity is 0. So the initial velocity which is 20 تمام over the time by cross multiplication 2t equals 20 so t equals to كام 10. يعني ايه الكلام ده؟ يعني العربية وقفت بعد 10 ثواني. تمام؟ So let's see. It stopped فين؟ يعني at 50. لأن the car decelerated for 10 seconds. خلاص and then I just draw a line that connects to 50 and that's it. تمام؟ So again, question number C. At 40, the car started to decelerate at a rate of 2 meters per second. First, I had to know what was the velocity at 20. The velocity at 40, was 20. I applied the rule in the acceleration is change in velocity over time. Now, since the final velocity is 0, يبقى أنا كتبت initial which is 20 over the time equals to A. By cross multiplication, لقيت إن العربية هتقعد تقلل سرعتها في 10 ثواني. هي كانت عند الثانية 40 وصلت لحد الثانية 50. And then you just draw a straight line that connects to 50. هنعمل بقى الأسئلة اللي فوقها دي أسئلة هبلة جدا وسهلين قوي، بس هنعملهم كده سريعا. تمام. هنا بقى نشوف قصة this is distance time graph. So the line drawn is speed. هنا بيقول لي Xanthi cycled from home. هو أنا am I recording أصلا؟ I'm recording. اتخضيت، حسيت إن I'm not recording. طيب هنا بقى Xanthi cycled from home to visit her uncle. يعني هي طلعت من بيتها to visit her uncle. She stopped at the way to buy a present. The diagram here shows a distance time. So let's see what is required here. طبعا we have to find the scale first. خلاص قلناها بقى كتير الحتة دي. The scale on the x-axis, the time is in minutes, so 20 over 10, which is positive 2, وهنا 4 over 10, which is 0.4. طبعا يبقى هي she finished, she left home, she went to her uncle, she stopped on the way to buy a present. طبعا stopped on the way means إن هي this horizontal line represents the stopping part, and then she went to her uncle. هنا بقى بيقول لك for how many minutes did she stop to buy the present? Now this horizontal line represents the stopping part. Let's see, this horizontal line is how many squares? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 squares, and each square is 2 minutes, so she stopped for 10 minutes. كروتته في الهدية. ما حدش بيشتري هدية في 10 minutes، بس ماشي. Find the distance from Shafamendi's home to her uncle's house. هي طب ما ايه This is her home. طبعا this is where she stopped to buy the present, and this is the uncle. Okay, so what is the distance? The distance is 12 kilometers. تمام. Calculate the speed at which she cycled from home to the shop. So the shop is here, 4 kilometers away from home. I am required to calculate the speed at which she cycled from home to the shop. يعني الحتة دي. طبعا as we said, since this is a distance time graph, so the line drawn is speed. To be very specific, the gradient of the line drawn is speed. طبعا هنا قال لي give the answer in kilometer per hour. خدوا بالكم يا جماعة إنه هنا the time is in minutes. طبعا the speed is distance over time. The speed is distance. أنا هحلها هنا. The distance is 4 kilometers. Over the time, she took 20 minutes to travel from home to the shop. So 20 over طبعا, since this is in minutes, I have to change it into hours. I'm going to do it on the calculator. I guess the answer is going to be 12. Yes, 12 kilometers per hour. So we solve question A, question B, question C. Xanthi stayed at her uncle's house for 30 minutes. طبعا stayed means that we're going to represent this by drawing a horizontal line. Type, let's see. She stayed for 30 minutes. 30 minutes means how many squares? Now, since the square is 2 minutes, تمام? 30 minutes, you can simply divide 30 by 2, فهتبقى 15 squares. 15 squares. أو خدوا بالكم هي عن 60. 30 minutes يعني عند 90. مش محتاجة حتى فلسفة. وال 90 في النص هنا بالظبط. So I'm going to draw a horizontal line till 90 بالشكل ده. لأنه I have to, لأنه هو قال لي she stayed for 30 minutes. Then she traveled back home at 48 kilometers per hour. Calculate, complete the distance time. يعني هي بعد ما اشترت الهدية وراحت لخالها وفضلت قاعدة عنده نص ساعة، رجعت البيت. احنا عايزين نعرف بقى هي رجعت في مدة قد ايه. تمام، عشان نعرف وصلت قد ايه. So this part we did it actually in the يعني السؤال اللي فات ده اللي هو بتاع the car. She then traveled back home at 48 kilometers per hour. يبقى أنا I need to calculate the time taken from her uncle's house to her house. محتاجة أعرف هي قعدت وقت قد إيه في السكة من بيت خالها لبيتها. طبعا let's draw the speed time triangle. This is speed equals distance over time. So I am required to calculate again the time taken from her house, sorry, from her uncle's house to her house. The time is distance over speed. طبعا her uncle's house is 12 kilometers away over the speed, which is 48 kilometers per hour. Now let's do this on the calculator. 12 divided 48 هتطلع 1 over 4 hours. طبعا ربع ساعة يا جماعة. 1 over 4 hours simply means 15 minutes. يعني هي وصلت بيتها بعد 15 دقيقة. دي شوية غلسة في رسمتها لأنه 15 دقيقة. Now remember that she left her uncle's house 90 minutes after she left home. هنزود على 90 15 دقيقة. 10 minutes, so it's 100. Now I'm going to zoom more and more so that you know where is 105. 105 هتبقى دي كده 102. فين القلم؟ دي كده 102 104 105 في النص. And then you just join. طبعا ايه اللاين العجيب ده. And then you join of course with a ruler. I'm drawing best on the laptop. It's not easy to draw a perfect line. طبعا this has to be drawn with a ruler. تمام. And this here, she arrived home 15 minutes later. Yani she arrived at minute 105. Then the last question here says, for how many minutes was she away from home? طبعا she left الدقيقة 0. She went back home الدقيقة 105. So she was away for 105 minutes. And this is Xanthi's story, the last story of our curriculum is Bishan. Bishan ده بقى عمل ايه؟ Bishan, now let's find the scale first real quick. هنا 12, 12, 10, 10 squares in between. So the scale here is +1 and I guess the scale is the same on the y-axis. وبليز محدش يقول لي scale دي ازاي. يعني دي قلناها كتير قوي. Bishan sets out from home at 12 noon to meet his brother at the airport. To meet his grandmother at the airport. هو خرج من بيته الساعة 12 عشان يروح يجيب مامته grandmother from the airport. On the way home, he remembers that he left his phone at home. He returns home to collect it and then sets off to the airport again to meet his grandmother. At the airport, he waited for her and then he drives her home 10 kilometers to send her home. And this is his journey. Let's see the journey again. Point A represents 12 noon. هو خرج من بيته الساعة 12. مشي بالعربية لحد ما وصل عند point B. بعد ما مشي بالعربية and وصل and reached to point B افتكر ايه ده انا سبت التليفون في البيت. I forgot the phone at home. So he had to go back home to get the phone. And then he ran to the airport to get his grandmother at point D. He waited in the airport to get for his grandmother. فضل مستنيها. بعد ما خدها at point E روحها البيت and point F. Then A, B, C, D, E, F, G. G is the last point اللي هو وصل فيها بيتهم بقى. تمام؟ Let's see the questions. At what time did he arrive at the airport? So where is the airport? Which point? The airport is point D. So he arrived at 12:30. خدوا بالكم. So this 30 kilometers هنا airport بتاعي. AP يعني this is the airport. How many minutes did he wait at the airport? The waiting letters are D and E. He waited in the airport from 12:30 to 12:40 which is 10 minutes. مش عارفة مين بيستنى في المطار 10 minutes. احنا بنستنى قد كده. Okay. How many kilometers did he travel between noon and 13:20? يعني من أول ما خرج من بيتهم لحد ما روح. مشي قد إيه؟ معلش أنا بس هغير الإنترنت. ثانية. Okay. So, can you please just confirm that you can hear me, those who are online with me? And can you confirm that the screen is shared? All is good? Can you please type in the chat?
all is good. Screen shared. My voice is clear. Can you please type in the chat? Okay, perfect. So can I continue normally? Okay, so let's go back to Bishan and see what's his story. هنا بقى question number C says how many kilometers did Bishan travel between noon and 13:20 يعني قعد قد ايه ساق قد ايه من اول ما خرج من بيته. Let's see. From A to B he traveled 10 kilometers. لما افتكر التليفون رجع البيت تاني, so he traveled another 10 kilometers. So this is a total of 20. And then from C to D, he traveled 30 kilometers to the airport. So 10 plus 10, 20. 20 plus 30 is 50. He stayed at the airport. From E to F, from the airport to his grandmother is another 10. And then from his grandmother to the airport to his house is a total of 40. So 10 plus 10, 20. 20 plus 30, 50. 50 and 10 is 60. So 100 kilometers. 10 and 10, 20. 20 and 30, 50. 50 and 10, 60. And then back home, 40. So it's 100 kilometers in total. 100 kilometers. Okay, between which two times was he driving the most quickly? طبعا between which two times was he driving the most quickly? طبعا let me just, why did I erase all this? Let me put the points again. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Of course, it's between B and C because it's the steepest line. أكتر line steep. تمام? So between which two times? So as we said, between points B and point C, because this line is the steepest. Now let's see, دي كام هنا? 12 and how many minutes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So between 12:10 and 12:15 was he driving the most quickly, اللي كان راجع يجيب الموبايل. At what times was Bishan 10 kilometers away from the airport? Now let's see where is the airport. The airport is at 30 kilometers away from home. أو هنقولها كده بطريقة لطيفة, المطار عند الكيلو 30. عايزين نعرف بيشن امتى كان 10 كيلو قبل المطار و10 كيلو بعد المطار. So 10 kilometers before the airport means الكيلو 20. This is 10 kilometers before the airport. 10 kilometers after the airport means الكيلو 40. عايزين نعرف دي كام وعايزين نعرف دي كام وعايزين نعرف كام. يعني ايه؟ يعني هو كل ما يبقى ناقص له على المطار 10 كيلو يبص في الساعة. تمام؟ 10 كيلو قبل المطار أو 10 كيلو بعد المطار. So let's see these 3 points over here. So 10 kilometers before the airport, 10 kilometers after the airport. So he was, this is the answer of question E. I'm going to write it over here. 12:25 كان 10 كيلو قبل المطار. 12:50 كان 10 كيلو بعد المطار. And then this is 13:05 I guess. 13:05 كان 10 كيلو اللي هي عند الكيلو 20 وهو راجع من المطار. Okay, let's see the last question, which is question number F. Calculate Bishan's speed during the journey from where? From his grandmother. Calculate Bishan's speed during his journey home from his grandmother's house. Yani, which 2 points are we discussing? Point F and point G. And a point F, this is his grandmother's house, and point G, this is his house. Speed is distance over time. The distance is in kilometers. his grandmother is 40 kilometers away from his house. السبيد is distance على time. وعايزة أكد يا جماعة إنه التايم في المسائل بتاعة السبيد بيبقى the time taken. يعني أنا قعدت وقت قد إيه في السكة. So let's see. هو ساب he left his grandmother at 12:50. He arrived to his house at 13:20. So how many minutes in total? 30 minutes. 30 minutes. طبعا هنا you're required to change this into hours لأن the question says change to hours. فهتبقى 30 over 60 hours. 40 على half فهتبقى 80 kilometer per hour. And everyone كده we are done with the physics part, all the questions that are in your notes. I hope again that this video was useful to you. And I'll see you all back in school. And these are the last two videos بقى خلاص that I'm going to send to you. Thank you all for listening. Bye.